Hi, everyone. Welcome back. This is the You Only Go Once podcast, otherwise known as YoGo. This is Cheryl Cantafio. I am here today with my lovely co-host, Eileen Grimes. And Eileen is going to kick us off by introducing our next guest.
Oh, well, I am so excited to be introducing Kay Allison. Kay helps professional women break their drinking habits and get free. Free from booze, free from shame, and free from anxiety. In 1999, Kay Allison was a senior vice president at a global ad agency and a single mom as her drinking escalated to the point that she went alcohol free. Since then, Kay increased her income 6 times, met and married a man she's still crazy about 21 years later, helped Fortune 200 companies generate $2 billion in new revenue, adopted a child, written 2 books, invented 4 successful businesses, traveled around the world, and moved to her dream town. Most importantly, she is happy with herself. She's a clairvoyant, an executive coach, and a healer. She lives in a pine forest, complete with a waterfall. She truly lives a juicy AF life. Welcome, welcome, Kay.
Thank you, Eileen. Hi,
Yeah.
Cheryl. It's really fun to be here.
Thank you. We're so excited. Eileen gave one heck of an intro for you, right? And we're going to start with one of our favorite questions, which is in all of your travels, could you tell us about the best trip that you've ever taken and how it impacted you?
I went to Bhutan in 2004, 2005, 2006, somewhere in there with my oldest child who was then in college. It was just heaven. It's mountains and monks and meditating. And the spiritual juju there is so thick that you can feel it. And we went to, I'm sure you've seen the picture of the Tiger's Nest Sanctuary. It's this Buddhist temple that's built into a rock cliff face. We hiked up there and were able to go inside. Well, the temple is built around the cave where Padmasambhava, who brought Buddhism to Tibet, where he achieved enlightenment. And I had a white light experience. I don't know how else to say it. The spiritual juju was so thick, and my body started moving and shaking. It just was the most incredible experience. And now when I meditate, I always run earth energy and I pull energy up from place.
I don't think Cheryl's ever known this, but I have had one of those moments.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. For me at least, it felt like the most warm and filled I could possibly be in this moment of just being present and alive. And there's just so much to it, to even try to use words it just doesn't feel like enough, really. Yeah, so I'm curious, for this trip, was this something you needed at the time? Was this something you felt called to go to this place? Sometimes the impetus for going and then finding what you were supposed to find here is all sort of part of that journey. I'm curious as to what sort of sparked wanting to go there.
You know, my daughter was doing a study abroad in Dharamsala. She was doing a Tibetan studies program in Northeast, I guess that is Northeast India. And they did 3 weeks in Bhutan, where she actually worked in the Tibetan children's village. Anyway, when she came back, she was like, you have to come. And so I made plans and we trekked for 10 days and just had an amazing experience.
This sounds like something I need to go do. I'm going to have to add it to my list of things.
It's a magical place. It really is a magical place.
When you had this sort of experience, was your daughter with you?
Yeah, she was.
Did she get to share in any of it?
I think she wondered what the heck was wrong with me because I was shaking all over the place. I mean, she was 21 or something. I'm sure I embarrassed her dreadfully.
That's kids. I have
okay.
a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old, so I already dreadfully embarrass them as is, so I can only imagine.
It only gets worse, I'm sorry to tell you, but then it gets better.
this is what I keep hearing. Oh, that's amazing.
I just want to say I'm always incredibly humbled by where people wind up because, a lot of people have said, oh, we've gone here and we've gone here. So the reveal that you've gone to Bhutan, it's so exciting. It shows how big and small the world is. So now we're connected that way, and that we're proud to say, like, hey, we're sharing an experience with our listeners, that we're taking you on a journey through Kay to Bhutan and her experiences. and the white light moment. Eileen did a nice job of explaining it, but for you, what did that white light moment feel like? I mean, you said something like you were shaking, but what do you know what it was specifically in Bhutan that just wowed you?
It was a transcendent experience. I had had a Kundalini awakening several years before that. So the belief, I didn't know what was happening, but I came to understand afterwards what it was. And the belief is that there's this energy that dwells in the base of your spine. And when it gets released, it snakes around your spine and tumbles out the top of your head, like the catechus, the doctor's symbol.
Mm.
And
yes. Okay.
When that happened to me, I was in a Qigong class. Somebody was playing a glass bowl. It was resonating all over the place. And my body just was shaking and I couldn't control it. And it was the weirdest thing. I was like, what is happening to me? Like it shook for days. I would sit at the dining table and shake. I mean, it was the craziest thing.
Wow.
And finally, I had an experience with a woman that did healing touch. And she was like, look, you got to be able to work with this energy. The more you squeeze down on it, the more it vibrates. If you can learn to relax and expand your energy, it will help. So I'm telling you this because when I was in front of that cave, there's one room in the tiger's nest that is built around the cave. And I had that same rush of energy up my spine. And what it looks like is just my heart really opened and my body was shaking back and forth. And it's such a transcendent experience. I don't even know how to put words into it because it's beyond words.
Yeah,
definitely.
Wow.
From going through your bio and everything, when did this happen during your sort of timeline? Where does it sort of fit in with all of the work that you're doing now and sharing some really important things that we'll talk about in a little bit?
Both of those experiences happened within the first 5 years of going alcohol free.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, right. It's amazing what your mind can open to when it's sort of freed.
Early in my sobriety, I walked into a recovery meeting and there was this gorgeous woman whom I knew professionally. She was maybe 10, 15 years older than I, very accomplished. I really looked up to her and you walk into a recovery meeting, you don't expect to see somebody that you work with. And she was telling a story. It started pretty normally. She was in her living room with her husband. And then it started to get weird because her boyfriend was there and the police. And it was 3 a.m. And she thought this was perfectly normal. And she threw back these curls and she laughed. And I was floored.
Wow.
Because I was so buried under layers, encrusted under layers of shame and remorse and regret and anxiety and embarrassment, all with wallpaper on top of it that said, nothing to see here, pass on by. And she was so vibrantly free. She was free from alcohol for sure. She was free from shame and she was free from pretending and free from feeling like she was going to get found out as being a fraud. And it had never occurred to me that you could live that freely. And I wanted that. And today, that's what I want to be for other women.
Oh, I love it. And it's so
wonderful.
needed. I mean, even if we think about there's layers of addiction, not just alcohol, right? There's various layers of different types of addictions, but even societal standards that are on women, especially, right? Those are all parts of those layers that to pull those off, it takes others being there to support. And I just think what you're doing is so incredibly important in this time.
I feel like you don't have to be addicted to alcohol in order to benefit from taking a break. Anxiety is the number one mental health issue in America.
Got it. I'm here, right there.
Yes.
Yeah, me too. But even moderate drinking on a regular basis doesn't take the edge off of anxiety. It actually creates anxiety. Your body biologically anticipates that this relaxant is going to come in. And in order to keep you in a safe zone, it ratchets you up so that when you drink, you don't get so relaxed that your heart forgets to beat. And so we think in our society that drinking is a way to relax. And in reality, what it's doing is making us more anxious.
Okay, mind blown. That's extremely insightful, and I've never even considered that. I mean, as Cheryl knows, and I don't know if our listeners know quite yet, well, they know now, or they will know, I live in a recovery household. So, understanding and going through that is such a difficult and life-changing process. There's just so many pieces to it that it's amazing to have to unwind so many of those things and to become brave in our own sense of self and who we are, and to join the world as naked as that person can be terrifying.
Terrifying. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, I had that narrative of never being good enough, not thin enough, rich enough, smart enough, pretty enough, old enough, young enough, buxom enough, thin enough, all the things enough, even when they were diametrically opposed. I wanted it all. I think that it's really hard to be a woman alive in the 2000s and not have absorbed that culturally via osmosis in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
And to really be able to talk about that in a matter of fact way. Oh my God, what a relief. What a relief.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I have my 5-year-old daughter, and we're already having some of these conversations because I'm like, I'm trying to get to you before all the other stuff does. And it's going to, but at least you can have this inner voice from a young age to say, well, but this is me. This is what I am. This is who I am. And I can start helping push those other things to the side that don't really align with the me that I know.
She's a lucky girl.
Oh, I'm trying.
She is. She definitely is. And your daughter is too, and your kids are, which is, something. And especially in this age, right? Everything is exposed on social media. Everybody wants to put out their most perfect selves. I think it takes a certain type of courage to be vulnerable and honest with yourself in terms of where you are. And especially if you're feeling moments of anxiety or depression, or just your self-confidence is taking a hit. So to be able to be that brave and to be that vulnerable and to offer that space to other women that says, like, come with me. It's actually much better for you. This is healthier for you, right? So just great stuff.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes.
Before I got sober, I really thought that in order to be loved, I needed to impress you, and I needed to pretend really, really hard that I had it together. And what I've learned is all of that facade puts a barrier between us. And if I'm vulnerable and am who I am with you, then that's the way we connect. We connect from our vulnerable points. We don't necessarily connect from our impressive places.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. Because that's the real us.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I can't really connect with you if I'm not talking to the real you. And you can't connect with me.
Right. Right.
I want to go into this next piece, and I'm curious if we've already touched on it or if it's just sort of an extrapolation of some of, or more detail on what we've already been talking about, but a moment that radically changed how you view the world.
Yeah, I had always known that I drank a little differently than other people. I'd pretty much reconciled myself to the fact that once I started drinking, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know how much I was going to drink or where I was going to end up or with whom. But it was when I realized that I started to drink even when I had set out to not drink, that was terrifying, right? Because once I started, I couldn't necessarily stop.
Right.
Okay.
And once I stopped, I always started again. That puts you in so much danger. Like, you could be going to meet the president of the United States and somebody hands you a champagne and you're gone. Or you like, it just, especially as a woman, it just made me feel so unsafe all the time. Like, I couldn't trust myself. And there was an incident where I had set out to not drink. I was turning 40 on Tuesday. So the Saturday before, I decided I was going to throw myself a birthday party that I couldn't afford because I wanted to impress you. And then I decided I was only going to drink Diet Coke so I could be present. And somebody offered me a glass of champagne one too many times. Now, if they hadn't done that, I would have been fine. I'm kidding.
Oh boy.
I'm teasing.
Yeah, I know. I know you are.
And my kids, who were then adolescents, had to undress me and put me to bed. And I was done. That was the end. Not okay. Not okay. And it was the first time that anything like that in front of them had happened. And I was done. So I woke up with the usual, anxiety, but I also
Yeah.
had a moment of clarity and I was done. So I went to AA and I quickly realized that AA is not kind of organically suited for ambitious women. There are things about AA that I loved, continue to love. There are things that I've adapted, and there are things that I've coalesced from my own experience. But it was created for men with gigantic, kind of bloviating egos. And most women walk in thinking they're last on the list and they're somehow inadequate. And so that ego puncturing, that's part of the 12 steps, I find only exacerbates many women's problems rather than being a solution.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. If your ego's already this, then right, then that just continues to deflate and make you feel worse, I'd assume.
Yeah. I mean, one of the steps is to take daily inventory. And the questions are, where was I selfish, resentful, dishonest, or afraid on a daily basis? That's what you write about. And if I already think that I'm not enough, you know what I mean? It's like, and I was dishonest, and you know what I mean?
Right.
Pile on, everybody. So what in my program, what I do instead is we practice one spiritual principle a week. It might be honesty. It might be kindness. It might be patience. It might be amusement. It might be seniority, like having seniority over your mood, no matter what's going on around you. Right. So we play with those concepts. And then our inventory or our daily journaling is about, what did I learn about practicing honesty? What did I learn? What does it feel like in my body? When do I get scared? When do I shade the truth? Do I have to temper it with kindness or a little bit of discernment? Otherwise, it can be a cudgel. So I'd rather be learning about how do I comport myself in a way where I'm in alignment with the spiritual flow rather than continuing to beat myself up for every transgression.
So your program, so this is Juicy AF. Is the program called?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
It's called Juicy AF, where the AF also means alcohol free.
Yes, sure does. Yes. So with that, well, one of the very exciting things is your book's coming out when the day this is out. So people go take a look at that. But you also have an actual program that people can be a part of. What does that look like?
It has 3 parts. The first part is really helping women discern what alcohol is giving them, what benefits it brings, and what it costs them in terms of their energy and their anxiety. I ask them to articulate their ideal future self. And then the question becomes, does the drinking you get you towards that, or does it move it away? So no judgments at all. You don't have to hit rock bottom, and you don't have to be an alcoholic, and you don't have to be going to rehab. It's a pretty clear-eyed view of, is this working for me right now or isn't it? Right. So that's kind of the first phase. The second phase is really super practical ways that you can set yourself up for success, for taking that break from drinking. Super practical. What do you say in the sticky social situation when somebody asks you, why aren't you drinking? Like it's any of their business, number one. But it's good to have a couple sentences worked out in your head before you're asked. And then the third is I've articulated 5 universal spiritual laws: forgiving others to free yourself. They're pretty anodyne, they're not bizarre. We know this from our experience. When I forgive you, I get free, I'm not letting you off the hook. I'm letting me off the hook. And so that's where the meat of the program really is, because that's a lifelong exercise in how do I live today in alignment with spiritual flow and spiritual fun? Because you got to have fun.
Yes.
Because if it's not fun and colorful and magical, not drinking, why in the hell would you do it?
It's so funny. There was something in my gut as soon as you said that. So I grew up Catholic. Spiritual fun is sort of an oxymoron for me.
Right.
I'll be honest.
Right.
That doesn't feel like it aligns necessarily. Like, do all the things like it's fine, and it's all part of it and tradition, and I know it gives people so many wonderful things, and I'm not to knock it, but just I don't know. Spiritual fun does not, it just sort of wasn't in my repertoire of thinking. So I appreciate that you sort of brought that to the forefront for us to think through.
My favorite spiritual principle is amusement.
Mm.
Mm,
And Lamont says laughter is carbonated holiness. And I really believe it.
that's very cool.
That's great.
So what does that spiritual tenet look like for you? What does amusement look like for you?
I find that looking for things to be amused by and being ready to laugh about things just makes life flow a little bit more loose, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I love it so much is because I grew up in such a boring, beige, studious, academic, scientific house with lots of rules. And it felt like a beige prison to me. I mean, I had a lovely
Okay.
childhood and it was fabulous and like nothing bad happened. And I mean, look at me. I'm wearing red glasses and a bright blue shirt.
The
and I have a
glasses are
red teapot over
fantastic.
there.
Yes.
Like, I mean, I do not have anything beige. And I think that what drinking gave me was this escape into this magical, colorful world where there were lots of possibilities. And I thought that giving up alcohol was going to be going back to the beige prison. And so I had to create this colorful, vibrant, magical life, or I wouldn't. And I've been sober 23 years. You can't do a beige prison for 23 years. You just
No.
can't.
Absolutely
And congratulations to you. That's wonderful.
Isn't that a long time? Thank you.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, it's really great. Kay, you've talked a lot about, how you want to give back to other women and kind of help them in their journey to become alcohol free. Just stepping back, if you could travel back in time, right, and talk to your younger self, what advice would you give to that younger Kay?
I think the heart of it really goes to it's okay to be different. It's okay to be colorful. It's okay to know things clairvoyantly. That is where your magic lies. And don't be so willing to wallpaper over it and pretend that you're something different.
So can you explain for those of us who might not know, what is clairvoyant? What is that gift?
Oh, it can be a gift. It can be a curse. It
Oh,
is,
fair enough. True. Double-edged sword.
It is like everything, right? The way it shows up for me is I know things without having any practical way to explain how I know them, know those things. When I was little, I remember my mom answered the phone. And this was back in the day when the phones were in the kitchen and there was a cord stuck in the wall. And I immediately knew that my grandfather had died as soon as she said hello.
Oh, goodness.
And I said to one of my sisters, "Oh, grandpa died." She yelled at me. And I remember going and hiding under a chair. It's that, like, I know who's calling before I know how my kids are doing, even though they live thousands of miles away from me now. I just know things. In fact, Claire, my daughter Claire, when she did that study abroad that we went to Bhutan, she was supposed to have gone to Nepal. And every time I thought about her going to Nepal, I felt like a knife in my heart. And I think about her doing something else, I'd be fine. I'd think about Nepal, pain in my heart. So finally I said to her, "Honey, I got to tell you." So she changed and she did that Dharamsala program. Do you know the day she was supposed to land in Kathmandu, the king declared a state of emergency and cut Nepal off from the rest of the world for 6 months.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Like, that's what being clairvoyant means to me.
Got it.
It's a way of just knowing what's going on with other people instantly. When I used to present in boardrooms to 25 senior executives, I would know who was with me and who wasn't with me. And I would know exactly what I had to say or do to get that one person to get with me without pissing off the rest of the people. Like,
that's
I can
incredibly
read
powerful.
the undercurrents. It's very helpful. What's most helpful is learning how to work with it so you can turn it off and you can move other people's stuff out. I had to actually go and get trained in how to be a clairvoyant, not because I didn't know how to turn it on, but because I didn't know how to turn it off.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I'd imagine that's very noisy.
It's so noisy.
Yeah.
And like, you talk to a girlfriend who's having a tough time, I'd be fine before or afterwards. I feel like I've got to up my meds. You know what I mean? It's like, wait, that's not me. That's not me. That's her. That's not me.
Can I ask where you study this? I am so curious. In the past few years, have seemed to come across and be in the realm with many others who are gifted with these types of things. I'm like, maybe I'm supposed to be exploring this. I don't even know. I'm so curious as to what that's looked like for you.
So I study at a school in Denver called the Interconnection Institute. It's run by this amazing woman named Lauren Sky. And the belief is that everybody is clairvoyant. We all just get clogged up. Our channels get clogged up with other people's expectations and patterns and programming. And that really the work is unclogging the channel.
All right, well, I'm going to be looking this up. I'm not lying. I truly am. So
yeah, she's fabulous.
Okay.
I love her.
And it's so funny because I know a lot of people that know me are like, well, you're like a math person and all this. I'm like, I mean, yes, I have a healthy dose of skepticism and, analytic mindset for sure. Also, I'm open.
Right.
I'm open to the possibility. So I know Cheryl thinks she's constantly hearing me like, oh, I met a medium that, does this, or
it's like weekly. I'm not even kidding. Like every time I'm like, there's some sort of magnetic thing with Eileen. Literally every time she's like, oh, by the way, this person was a psychic, or by the way, this person was a clairvoyant. And I'm like, is Spokane like a magical place or what's going on? So it's, I love that you shared that gift about yourself, because I think it's also comes from a place of empathy. So you had to be
deep empathy.
Yeah, you had to be empathetic with yourself to be able to open yourself up to other people. And you have to exhibit that empathy, especially if you know something. You just talked about like you knew that your grandparent had passed away, and there you wanted to kind of provide the warning before the actual picking up of the phone. So yeah, it is fascinating. But yes, Eileen is a complete magnet, and I'm just ready for her to say, by the way, I've gone to Denver and I'm going to find out more about this. So
fabulous.
Thank you for starting her on her journey, because I fully expect that to happen in 2023.
Well, so speaking of that, we have what's called the This Is Happening list. This started from me. Since I met Cheryl, we've continued to talk about starting different programs together and crazy ideas. And I'm always like, there's some I latch on to. I'm like, well, this is happening. And it's with utter conviction and knowing that it truly is going to be happening. And I have not just hoped. These are things that are going to be existing in the future. This podcast is one of those things that now exists from that space.
Yes.
So, we're going to be talking about that for what 2023 looks like. So what would you say is on your This Is Happening list?
Yeah. So what's happening for me, this book that I've been working on for a year is a three-dimensional object, and it's actually going to be out in the world for sure. And the program that I've created is now going to be available to groups of women instead of one-on-one. So there's a 30-day course for executive women, professional women, to take a break from alcohol. And then there'll be more, I'll create other courses in a community. So those things are happening in 2023.
Purely out of curiosity, do you have the book with you?
Yeah, I do.
There's something.
Here it is.
Because I have a book, and Cheryl is working on a book right now of poetry.
Oh, that's so great.
And there's something about holding that physical.
We say it all the time.
Copy.
If it's real, that you can feel it. I love the cover, by the way. I love those.
Isn't it fun?
It's beautiful.
That's amazing. And where can people get this? Because it will be today, right? When we launch this, it will be today. Where can people find your book?
If you go to my website, you'll get all kinds of goodies along with the book. You can go to Amazon. It's called Juicy AF. But if you go to my website, juicyaf.life/book, you will get not only the book, but also a 58-page accompanying workbook. So you can take the ideas and actually put them into action in your life. And the most adorable little journal. It's the cutest thing. Plus, you'll get a 30-minute one-on-one anxiety and energy audit call with me. So come to my website and for the price of the book, you'll get these $550 worth of bonus material.
I'm in. I'm already in. I'm buying it right now.
Yeah.
I love that. This is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all this. Are there any other mediums that people can find you on? Obviously, you have your website. Can they follow you on any socials just to make sure they can see what you're doing?
Yeah. Instagram's my place. So it's juicy_AF_life, juicy AF Life on Insta and LinkedIn. Those are my two platforms.
Oh, great. Okay.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
Well, that'll be great for us because that's where we are.
I
Awesome.
love what you're doing. What a fun, I think that the idea of living with vivaciousness and really being in life rather than thinking about life, I just love that. I think that, with anxiety, you can either freeze or like I have a friend who takes fear naps. I couldn't begin to take a fear nap. I got to go and run around the freaking block about 100 million times when I'm anxious. But oh my God, to just be there, to be in the flow of life, participating. I think it's just what life's all about.
And that's what we're hoping to share we want to share these stories because
Mhm.
I mean, I can't tell you for how long I was living by doing whatever I was supposed to be doing and sort of living the life I was supposed to be doing. And through various things that happened, now I'm like, no, this is the stuff that I want to do. And how do I help others? By hearing stories of other people who've done these things. And that can look different for every single person, right? Living on purpose, in your purpose, is only something that you can do individually based on who you really are. And that can take shape or form in whatever way you want it to be. And that's why we want to talk to so many different people who've done this and who are doing this and showing up in their own amazing, wonderful selves and showing other people that this is possible. And it doesn't matter if you're 15 or 75, whatever, there is no time too late to wake up and really be in this fully in your life.
Can I tell you one last story?
Yeah.
Sure, please do.
So my mom lives in Boulder here, about 15 minutes away from me. And my dad passed away 9 years ago. And they had been just the two of them. They didn't have a social life. Like the two of them were really, really close. They were bird watchers and photographers and wildflower experts. And when my dad died, it could have been dicey.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my mom moved into this retirement community. She's the head of the wellness committee. She started a book chat. She leads hikes for Boulder County. She's 92. She goes on 15-mile bike rides. I'm like, geez, Mom, your life is completely different.
Yeah.
And she said to me, if I had my preference, of course I'd be with your dad, but that's not an option. So what am I going to do? What was I going to do? Sit and be sad that I couldn't have what I'd had for so long or reinvent myself? My mother reinvented herself at 86.
That's what we can only hope, right? As life throws us these curveballs, who do we become in those moments? And we have the ability to choose sometimes how we take that. And that's not to say that there isn't grief. That's not to say that it's, positive thinking wins all.
Right.
Because we're allowed to feel those emotions. And what do we do next?
Yeah. It's always a choice.
I appreciate that there is generational yoga in your family.
Yeah.
That's lovely. Oh my goodness.
Yes. Generational yoga.
Yeah.
I love it.
Generational yoga. Yes. Kay, thank you so much for joining us. On behalf of Eileen Grimes and myself, this concludes our episode of You Only Go Once. I hope everybody takes away a wonderful morsel from this because this was such a pleasure to do. So thank you again, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye.